Hello, my good people. I'm so glad you're here for another episode of No Matter What. If we haven't met before, I'm Hanna Seymour, and every week I have a conversation with someone just about what it's like to walk faithfully with Jesus no matter what is going on in their life, how they do that, resources they use, things that they're pondering. And today my guest is Ruth Chou Simons. And if you don't know Ruth yet, I am so excited to introduce you to her, but you need to just go ahead and Google her to see her art. She is first and foremost an artist. Her stuff is beautiful. I have multiple prints of hers in my house, but let me just read a little bit of her bio to you. She is a Wall Street Journal bestselling and award-winning author of several books and Bible studies. I actually asked ChatGPT, I was like, how many books has she written? Because today we talk about The Way of the Wildflower, which is her brand new book that releases today. And Chat basically said she's written like 50 books when you add it all up with the Bible studies. She has actual Bibles that, of course, she did not write, but she has her illustrations in these Bibles. She's contributed to several books. Anyway, about 50 books. That is mind-blowing to me. But some of those include Grace Laced, Behold and Becoming, When Striving Cease, Now and Not Yet. She's an artist, as I said. She's a podcaster, a speaker. She's a founder, CEO, chief creative officer of Grace Laced, an art and lifestyle brand. I mean, she's been on Good Morning America and Fox and Christianity Today. She is a woman of many talents. She has raised 6 boys with her husband, Troy. And this episode, I know I always say this, but it was such a delight speaking with her. I really kind of used it as like a personal counseling session. So sorry, not sorry. And you'll notice our time with her is only about 30 minutes because she had a really full day. But don't go away at the end because I share some other things that she wrote in her book that I hope will resonate with you. Well, Ruth, I am so thrilled to have you on No Matter What. I have been a fan of yours from gosh, I bet it's been 12 years probably since I've watched you from afar and been at conferences where I think, maybe at the time you did like a breakout session and you were really there to sell your art. And so it's been so fun to watch your ministry and the works that you're putting out into the world grow and evolve. And anyway, it's fun. It's fun to watch
I
you
love
from
that you've seen
afar.
the journey because
And
it's
then
really changed over the years.
it
Yes.
has really changed. I have so much that I want to ask you about this new book that you have coming out. But before we dive into that, I'd love to just ask some maybe lighter, more random questions just to get to know you a little bit better. First, I'd love if you would just paint for us, no pun intended, the second that came out. That felt
Love
cheesy.
it.
Sorry. But would you paint for us a picture of what your current season of life looks like? I know you have 6 boys, but I think you've launched some of them, and just kind of like give us a picture of what does this season of life look for you right now?
Yeah, I'll try to make this brief so it's not tedious, but my oldest is 23 and my youngest is 12. The 23-year-old graduated from grad school. He was several states away in Wisconsin, but actually picked up a dream job at an engineering firm near home. So he wanted to be back here in Colorado, which is just a dream for any mama who has launched kids, for them to be away for several years on their own, but then want to kind of reestablish and kind of grow their lives here locally. He has a serious girlfriend and he is moved out. He has his own apartment and he is completely financially on his own, which is just a weird thing to say and feel. And I'm so happy for him, but we get to see him for church and we see him once a week or so when, he comes up for dinner or we spend time with his and his sweetheart. And it's really a wonderful season, but it's different. It's different because I don't have all 6 boys at home. I have 2 in college. My second and my third are both, one is finishing up his last remaining credits. And instead of being back on campus, since he only had a few credits left, he is actually doing that from home to finish up. And he is full-time employed. Actually, I don't think I've actually announced this anywhere, but he actually is full-time employed with Grace Laced. So he's our first full-time male employee. And I couldn't have been more honored that one of my sons wanted to come on staff with Grace Laced. And so he is fully employed and is probably going to move out soon. because he was just kind of transitioning at home. And then my third is the one that some people have maybe followed the journey on, where he was away freshman year in college and got in a very, very serious traumatic
Yes.
mountain biking accident and shattered his spine. That had major implications to his school year. And he is now back home to do some more recovery, but also to recover on some credits lost with schooling. And so he is back at home now, which this is really different for us because we had these boys away from home, and that changed the dynamics yet again. And so I have a senior in high school who is dual enrolled at college. So it almost feels like he's at college, but he is dual enrolled as a homeschooler. So he's in and out of the house. And then I have a freshman in high school and an eighth grader. So I got to tell you, it is a strange season where suddenly it feels like I have all adults at home, or at least all teenagers. It just feels like everyone's a lot older. They've got lots going on. And I don't know that I saw it coming, maybe some, but I don't think I quite realized how rare and special it is to be all together for any meals, to be all together on any family vacation. Those are really precious things that I can't take for granted now. And it's a season where, as somebody who has a ministry outside of the home and not locally, we're also involved with a local church here that we're a part of. And so between the local ministry and online ministry or outside of home ministry, my time is really, really thin. And so it's a time, it's a season. If I just wrap up this picture, it's a season where I'm trying very carefully to steward all of my callings really well, which means I'm saying no to a lot of things, which means I am really head down with my family when I am home, which means I'm limiting how many people I spend time with because I can't make time for every friendship. And it also means that I'm actually making some adjustments to the way I do business, and so that I am maximizing my gifts and stuff. So a lot of stewardship questions in this season of life, a lot of trying to plan for what the future looks like, and some even basics as like taking care of my health, because I know that this is kind of a real transitional time for me, even health wise. So thanks for asking, but it's definitely a strange season for me.
Well, I love hearing this. I also feel like I've been wrestling with stewardship a lot and saying, what am I saying no to? And you have to say no so that you can say yes to other things. And, but I'm almost at the, like, I'm not quite at the opposite end of the spectrum, but I have 3 at home, almost 8 years old, 6 and 4. So, I mean, it's like hilarious to me to imagine, oh, they won't all be at my kitchen table sometime all together. You know, they're always at my kitchen table. Those little stinkers always want to be fed, you know, they're always here and they always
like clockwork.
But it's like, oh no, like even as they grow and gain independence and are doing other things, this question of stewardship, like we're just going to continue to wrestle with this. And anyway, it's encouraging for me to hear that. And also like a good, like, oh yeah, Hannah, this is forever. It's a continual refining of what has God placed before me today? What am I supposed to say yes to? What do I need to say no to? Okay.
Absolutely.
What is something ordinary in your life right now that is bringing you joy?
Wow, that's a great question. I think probably the most ordinary thing that brings me so much joy is folding laundry and putting it away. Like I really like it, especially if
Ruth, you
they're
can come
like,
to my house and
especially if it's
fold
dish
my
towels
laundry.
like there's something so satisfying. I don't know how you fold it, but I'm a trifold and then double over. And I
That's
love
how
a
my mom does it.
crisp stack and something so methodical as folding laundry. And then I have a whole system of, and so as in I have boys who can fold all the laundry and they all do their own laundry. So I'm not like folding their laundry and putting it away. They all do their own things. But when there's a whole stack of rags or towels or dish towels, it is so satisfying to dump it out on the couch and then to see the chaos turn into order and to sort them by color and then to put them in a basket and then to put it all away. And I'm like, one thing I did today that feels orderly and done. I got to tell you, whether it's making the bed or putting away a load of laundry, just do something really ordinary and simple every day to remind yourself, like, everything feels impossible until it's done. But look, it's done. So
that is so true. I am a religious bed maker. Like I probably don't make the bed twice a year. I mean, maybe. And those days, those are not good days for me if I don't make the bed. So I understand that. The laundry, I'm going to think about you next time I'm doing folding my laundry. I've had such a love-hate with my laundry, and I've had to learn, I think we all shift based on our season of life. We
Sure.
do laundry in different ways and whatever. But I've had to come to a place where I'm like, okay, when I do laundry, I do it when I fold it. I'm in my bedroom and it is time with the Lord right now for me.
Yeah.
That is one time that I
Right,
use
right.
for usually solitude because my kids don't want to be near me because they know I'll make them help if they're near me. And I'm either praying for whoever's laundry I'm
Mhm,
folding or just
mhm.
praying about things the Lord brings to mind. Anyway,
Yeah, I'll
that's
do it with
what
audio Bible too. So similar
yes,
concept to like,
yes.
because I know I can focus on listening to my Bible on audio.
Yeah,
And it's just really it's a good
I
restful
love
time.
that.
So
I
that's
love
a
that.
good
Okay,
question.
last random question. What are just a few non-negotiables for you in your morning routine?
It's good. Um, well, coffee for
Yes,
sure.
same.
I happen to have a few baristas at home still. And so I have these boys who, especially my man cup number 3, it's his joy every day to meet me with a cup of iced or hot. And he interprets what kind of day I'm having and then brings me one or the other. It's like I can't, it's too good to be true, but he
Oh
literally,
my
that's a love
goodness.
language for him to like get my coffee just right. He knows exactly the touch of honey and the splash of milk. He knows exactly. So
Oh,
that's a non-negotiable. The other real non-negotiable is every single morning is spent with my family. So whoever is home,
mm,
whether it's just Troy or the littles or whoever, we all congregate downstairs. I don't think there's a morning, unless I'm traveling, that we're not all downstairs at the kitchen table talking about our day, talking about what we read in the
yeah.
word, or talking about how we just have a moment where we all kind of like, it's almost like we go team Simons. We have a moment where we're like, okay, we're going to do this together, whether we're all
Mhm.
eating breakfast at the same time or not. Some days, Saturday mornings might be beautiful. We might be having pancakes together, but most mornings are a little rushed, but that's a real non-negotiable. We have to touch base together like that. I think sometimes I have a really good time in the word in the morning and sometimes I don't. So I wouldn't say that's just a
Yeah.
non-negotiable. I'd like it to be so consistent in a way where, and for a time it was non-negotiable that I always had audio going because I
Mm,
always get ready. Like I kind of have
yeah.
to be ready every day. And so I'm usually playing my Bible reading plan on audio before I read or before I take any notes.
I
And
like that.
so I would say that's pretty much 90% of the time. That's how I start my day. But, there are times when there's a fire to put out first thing in the morning, or I have employees on the
Right.
East Coast and that kind of gets my day started pretty soon. So those 3 things, sometimes I go on a walk, but it's not every single morning.
Yeah.
So,
I think I read you and Troy co-authored a book. What is it called? Foundations.
mhm,
Remind me.
mhm.
It's Foundations and
Yeah, it's called
Family is in the title.
it's foundations, 12 ways. Oh my goodness. Why did I
Sorry.
literally just blanked out. I wasn't
Listen,
prepared for that.
story of my
Um,
life. It's okay. But it's called Foundations. That is the
it's a
title.
family devotional. Yes.
Yes. And I
It's gonna
think I
come right after we get off of this. Yes.
that'll be perfect. I'll make sure to get it and I'll put it on the intro. But I think I remember reading in that either he or you talked about like always hugging each child that you saw that morning, like
Yes. Oh,
physically touching. And
yeah.
I thought, again, my people are so
That
little
is
that
really
they're
a rhythm in our
usually
home.
hanging all over me already. But I thought,
Mhm.
that's so good. And we know science. It's like you need at least 8 hugs a
Yeah.
day, and most of us are not getting 8 hugs a day.
Oh,
Anyway,
I love that.
that just
I love that you
planted
brought
that
that
seed.
up because I actually don't think of that as a non-negotiable or whatever, but it really is a
Mm,
rhythm because I am naturally a little bit more of a get it done person. So I'm not as
same.
touchy feely. I don't think Troy is all that touchy feely, but he's very intentional. Troy
Mm,
is just more methodical and intentional. I tend to be a little bit more like get it done. And so I can see my family and be like, love you, but it might be a pat on the back and I might want to just like move on. But I've learned that
mm,
even if I see them every single day of my life, we stop, we give each other a big old hug
yes.
because not to be weird, but you just literally
Don't
never
know.
know. You never
Yeah.
know if you'll get to do that. You never know what your day holds.
Yeah.
And so that is a real non-negotiable. And that's a lot of kids to hug every day. And Troy makes me put down my books, my laptop, my phone. And he's like, no, 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 no side hug here. No pat on the back.
Yeah.
We're doing a real
Yeah.
hug. So he does that a lot.
Yes. Yes. That's so good. Okay. The Way of the Wildflower. First of all, this book, I don't even know if the hard copies have been printed yet. I have the PDF. It is, absolutely gorgeous, as is, I mean, all of your books are so gorgeous because
Thank
we have
you.
your beautiful watercolor and illustrations. But I believe most books are written from an author's experience, their need, their
Yeah.
craving for something, and they start diving into it. And then usually the
Hmm.
Lord births some book out of it. So
Yeah.
what's the story, Ruth? Where
Yeah.
did this book come from?
Well, we've lived in Colorado for the last 7 years. And before that, we were in New Mexico, always in the Southwest, always connected to nature. Um, every time we have, well, let me just back up. It's not like an every time. Life is pretty stressful. Like whether it was
Yeah.
related to having the six boys or being in ministry or starting your own business, I can't think of a season in the last decade that has been like, oh, everything is kind of settled and we know what's going on and there are no big decisions. I hope that feels like, that's normal in your life too. But we've
Yes.
just not
Yes.
been like, oh, we've never come to a place where financially or ministry wise or with the kids, we're
Yeah.
just like, everybody is so
So
exactly
easy.
where they need to be. No, nothing has felt
Yeah.
easy in the last decade, or more, even for that matter, for the last 2 decades. But I just found that anytime, every time my heart felt heavy, I'd say, well, Lord, I got to get outside. I have to go,
Mm.
whether I lived in a city and I needed to go on a walk down by the river or at the park, or now in Colorado, I'm like, well, I live near the mountains. I go for a drive or we go up on a hike every single time. And I've written about this before. I'd find that if I could shift my gaze to what God has created rather than look at all the things right before me on my
Yeah.
devices, in my business or in my, immediate like things that I'm trying to control, I grow in awareness of how God is faithful, how God is
Mm.
sovereign. I understand the attributes of God. And so when I, like many of us, we know the passages of scripture that remind us not to worry and remind us how God cares for us. And one of those is in the gospels through all the gospels, but, in Luke, 12, when Jesus is talking about not worrying about what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear. And specifically in verse 27 of chapter 12, consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not toil or spin. And there have been specific seasons where I feel so stuck in not
Mm.
necessarily what I'm going to wear, but conceptually in that worry of how is this going to work out? What am I going to do? And the Lord will give me an opportunity to go for a walk or get up in the mountains. And every single time, if I would just even step outside, whether it's wildflower season and I actually see beautiful wildflowers, or I'm just seeing the tiny little weed flowers that are growing up on the side of the road, every
Mm.
single time I'm reminded of that verse and am aware of how God really is taking care of the flowers that grow up in harsh conditions, the flowers that grow up out of nowhere, the flowers that nobody's tending to them, and yet God's providing for them. And
Mm.
so this book, this devotional, a collection of meditations really is birthed out of the realities of feeling anxious about things that I can't fix in my life. And
Yeah.
yet being reminded that God is purposely placing me in these specific scenarios so that I might look to him and go, I can be cared for. I can live in the way of the wildflower, free and
Mm.
resilient, unhurried, and really beloved, and also dependent on my creator. And so that's
Yeah.
really what has inspired me to put together a book like this.
Yeah. Okay. So you just kind of rattled them all off, but I jotted down notes as I was looking through it. So the book has 5 sections, and you're looking at wildflowers, and then how our lives mirror that. We can live a life of dependency, freedom, resiliency, the way of the unhurried. I love that. And beloved. I
Mm.
want to talk to you about all of these. We do not have time, so I would love to dive into you. You wrote about living unhurried yet productive.
Mm,
And first of all, that's so countercultural. Second of all, that
for
almost feels
sure.
impossible. I mean, I know every woman listening to this will resonate with this. I feel like I'm juggling 1 million things every day. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ruth, tell me, how do I live unhurried but
Yeah.
productive?
Well, I think the issue is we try to find the fix of like, how do I stop doing this and start doing that? But I think every
Mm,
issue kind of starts from the heart. I mean, we say this
yeah.
as mamas to our children, right? Like it's a
Yes.
heart issue. We get that. But even as you're listening to this issue, if you're somebody who struggles with hurry and worry and trying to like fit so many things into your life and trying to juggle it all, kind of dial it back and say, okay, what's
Mm.
going on in my heart? How much of my hurriedness is one that I'm trying to get to another season, thinking everything will be good if I can just get through this? Will I be happier if my kids finally just learn how to put away their laundry? Like we start thinking the paradigm is I got to hurry through this thing I don't like about my life right now because the
Wow.
next will be better. So that could be one posture of your heart. Another posture could be that you're feeling hurried because you're saying yes to so many things because you really don't trust that God's going to provide for you. So you kind of keep providing for yourself, whether it's saying yes to all the friends because you don't know if you're going to feel value if you don't, saying yes to all the projects because you don't know if you have worth if you don't do it all. So those are all things that nobody can
Mm.
answer but you. But it's a little self-assessment going, it starts with the heart. Why am I in a hurry? Or maybe you don't even think of yourself in a hurry, but think about what does hurriedness look like? Hurriedness looks like I'm going to miss out if I don't do it all or get it all or somehow fit it all in or
Wow.
nail it all. And so maybe you are kind of calm and you're not rushing around, but you're still trying to be everything to everyone. I would still call that hurriedness. And so I think the answer to the question of how do you live a life that's unhurried is to start with the paradigm of, do I believe that God is in a rush in my sanctification? Do I think he's actually like, hurry it up, girl? You're not getting where you need to go. Or is he actually saying, you don't love what you're going through today, but I have purpose in this today. You
Yeah.
wish that your kids were already automatically fully obedient and able to work out their
Yes, Lord, I
own
do.
struggles. Well, what if he's actually doing something in them and in you right now
Yeah.
that can't be rushed? So I guess I'm
Yeah.
just saying, if we don't start with the character of God and knowing who he is and what he's doing purposefully in
Yeah.
our sanctification, we're always going to be in a rush because we're going to try to
Mm.
be God and do his job for him.
Mm.
And so the way of the unhurried really is recognizing that there's a season for everything, that you may
Mm.
be called to a lot, but maybe not all in the same season. You don't have to be, this amazing wife, mom, career woman, and volunteer for everything and minister and start your own business
Yeah.
and start a nonprofit. Like you don't have to do all of it all at once and keep your house
Right.
perfectly clean, right? I
Yeah.
think we put that kind of pressure on ourselves because we imagine that everything has to be done right now. Whereas
Mm.
if you look at the wildflower, they don't bloom all in the same season. They don't bloom in every season.
That's
There are
right.
times of rest. There are times of growth. There are times of dormancy. And so unhurriedness is trusting that God's timing is better than ours.
Mm. I want you to talk a little bit more about the season of dormancy. As I read that, that really resonated with me. I think over the last just like 2, 3 weeks, this has not been a major defining moment or season in my life, but I was telling a friend, I'm like, I think I'm growing weary. And, end of Galatians, Paul exhorts us, let's not grow weary from doing good works, for at the proper time, we will, receive a harvest if you don't give up. And, I said, I think maybe I'm feeling weary. I feel like I've planted the seeds and I prepared the soil and planted the seeds. I feel like I've been walking in obedience and doing things that the Lord put on my heart. And I'm just staring at a field of soil of dirt. Like there's no growth. and I'm like, I know it's not time. Like the crops are not supposed to be above the soil at this moment in my chapter. But it's like it's hard not to get discouraged. It's hard not to see movement and growth when you feel like, Lord, I think I've been obedient to the calling. Like, what do you say? What do you say to that, to me, to the woman that is in it?
So much. I'm about to ask you a million questions about that because the reality is, you know, are you looking at only one area of your life? Are you looking at
Mm,
this
yeah,
one
I am,
calling?
Ruth. Just one.
Because I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I'm
Yeah.
like, are you assessing where God has given you fruit or growth in other areas of your life? Are
Mm,
you called to only one thing? Because I think when we
yeah.
start limiting the way God is supposed to work based on what we want to see growth in, then we start getting real nitpicky about where the harvest is coming from, right? And so before I go there, I'll just say back to the original question, because I'm not trying not to be all bossy about your life or anything, but
You can be bossy,
I've been
it's
there.
fine.
I've been there, but dormancy is really all about rest and roots. It really is. It's really about the fact that you can manipulate fruit and you can make it but you're not going to have good fruit if the roots aren't healthy. If there's never been a time to strengthen the root system or to replenish or to kind of rebuild and grow. This might not even be the very best analogy, but I think about how, with my fiddle leaf fig tree that's over there, the best way for it to grow stronger sometimes is to notch the entire top off. If I don't want it to have lanky, stringy branches, I actually have done this several times. You take the whole top off and it actually grows stronger and it comes out with better branches. And so for the sake of wanting to look like you're producing nice leafy things, you go, well, I can't go into a time of dormancy because look, there's a branch over here and it's got at least 1 or 2 leaves. But the reality is if you chop it off and you say, I'm going to prioritize nourishment and growth and strengthening this entire stalk, if you're going to invest in that, then everything that grows from that becomes stronger in time. And so I think we resent and resist any kind of dormancy because we live in a world where 24/7 people are saying fruit, fruit, fruit. They're telling you to be fruitful. And we're looking at how everybody else is producing fruit. And it feels really inefficient to do something that isn't outwardly really productive. So I would just say, you didn't ask, but I'll just say anyway, that when my kids were the age of your children, I can say I'm really, really grateful that was not a time where I had full fruit growing. I think if I had a lot of fruit and if I had a lot of professional growth at that point, I would have chased that wholeheartedly. And I wouldn't have had the capacity or the reminder to invest internally in my own spiritual walk with the Lord because I would have felt the pressure to keep producing externally. So praise the Lord that I still use some of my giftings. I was painting here and there. I was writing on a blog occasionally, and until it became like a thing I really was working to grow in. I was walking with the Lord, not because I had to post about it or not because I had to teach it. It was because I just needed it for day to day. And I can say now, Hanna, that when I look on the other side of that, as somebody who's about to turn 50, I really recognize, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, that the reason why I can and I have the capacity to do the ministry that I do now at the level that I'm doing it at, without my children falling apart, without my marriage suffering, being on the road and yet not feeling disconnected, being able to be in local ministry, but not feeling like I'm overpouring, that the balance of that now is actually because I have a really strong root system of 2 decades where people probably didn't really know where the investments were going. And I didn't have a lot to show for it publicly. I'm not saying that's everybody's story. And if somebody's listening here and you're like, I'm only 28 years old and I've got this whole thing going and it's already very, very public. My point isn't to say that there's something wrong with that. My point is to say that scaling and sustaining and the hoping that 1 row of harvest turns into 5 rows of harvest, that has everything to do with whether your first seedlings are really healthy and strong. And that for me has to start with my own walk with the Lord and what's happening right at home. And so I think a lot of times my challenge to you would be to say, God, I'm a multifaceted woman. I'm not going to look at only one area that I thought I've sown a lot of seeds in. Where else have you shown favor? And let me start counting the fruit in every area of my life.
That's good. That's really good. It was yesterday or the day before I saw something on Instagram. I think it was Kendra Adachi, and she was responding to another podcaster who I think had titled something like, "If you're not growing, you're dying." And she was like, I just vehemently disagree with this idea. And I thought, so I don't know if I had read that, I would have immediately gone to, that's wrong. But I think she is correct. And that is wrong. Like growth is something that comes in seasons. But something about our I don't know if it's the hustle culture or the just productivity culture or what it is that we think there always has to be measurable movement, growth, success. And that's not the spiritual journey. That's not plant life. That's not, one of her examples is she's like, my kids don't grow a teeny tiny bit every day. they wake up one day and they're just like an inch taller. Like, this is not, we can't measure growth like that. And you can be alive and thriving without, and I don't know that I'm like, but you're
Well,
growing, your roots are growing deeper, right? I don't know.
yeah. And I
It's
was
just
just
not
gonna
measurable,
say,
I
like,
guess.
I didn't see that exchange. I didn't see that original post. I don't know the person you're talking about, but the reality is definition of terms also matters, right? Too, because
Yes.
when we say
Yes.
growing, I think I go to fruit and numbers and metrics. So I do think of it that way. But by God's standards, the truth is growing is becoming and transformation and sanctification. And a lot of that can't be measured very easily. And so
Yeah.
I think the truth is, if we want to argue at both directions, biblically speaking, if you're not being sanctified and you're not growing in that way, then maybe you are dying, that you are not actually moving towards becoming more. But the
Mm-hmm.
truth is, if we're actually looking at growth as metrics or ability to show that you're moving further and further on, then yeah, like you're not dying just because your numbers aren't growing or that your children aren't suddenly more obedient. Like
Yeah.
you're investing, you're sowing every
Yeah.
day, and you may not see the fruit of that for a long time. And so,
Yeah.
it's interesting. A definition of terms matters there, I think.
Yes, I think you're right. Okay, I just saw what time it is, and I need to let you go because you have a whole day of interviews to be talking about the way of the wildflower. So I am going to be respectful of your time. Y'all, this book is beautiful. I am going to buy it for my mother-in-law immediately and ship it to her. She watercolors and everything about this book she will be obsessed with. But I can't wait to hold it and have my own copy. Y'all need to go get it. When this episode releases, it will be the book release date for The Way of the
Oh,
Wildflower.
thank you.
So, truly, y'all go check it out. The first week of sales and pre-orders really matter. So if you want this book, just go get it today. Ruth, thank you so much for this conversation, but just all of the ways that you have said yes to the Lord in using you and your skills and giftings and just all the things that you've put out on this earth that have encouraged me personally. And I know so many other people out there. So thank you.
Thank you. That means so much to me. And thank you for supporting the Way of the Wildflower.
Well, I only had about 12 other questions I had prepared to ask Ruth, but I had 30 minutes with her. And so I wanted to be respectful of her time. But I thought maybe to close, I would read a few of the quotes that I pulled that I wanted to talk to her about so we can just pretend that she responds to us. But one of the things to kind of close up the idea of the way of the unhurried is she wrote, "We needn't be in a rush. We needn't resent the slow, the quiet, or the seemingly unproductive seasons of our lives. We must not outpace our good God. We must not outpace our good God." That made me stop in my tracks and really humbly go before the Lord to say, "Lord, am I trying to outpace you? How do I know if I'm trying to outpace you? Will you stop me in my tracks? Holy Spirit, cease and desist me if I am trying to outpace you." In her section on dependency, which is something that I could talk about all day, I think that a sermon that I will tell for the rest of my life, a 10-second sermon, is spiritual maturity is marked by our dependency on God, not our ability to do it on our own. I think for most of my youth, I imagined a spiritually mature, a spiritually fruitful Christian being someone that like lives life well, that kind of does it. We think about how God is our good father and we are his children. And then we, see ourselves as parents raising our kids. My goal is to raise children who become independent adults. They need to be completely independent from me and be able to live a life on their own. That is maturity as a human being from a child to an adult. But in the spiritual realm, God is not trying to launch independent adult children. He is trying to foster more dependency in us throughout our whole life. I should be more dependent on God as an 85-year-old woman than I am today as a 41-year-old woman, and than I was as a 21-year-old woman. My dependency on the Lord should grow because maturity is realizing my incredible need for God, the depth of it. That is maturity. And so something she wrote that, again, I highlighted is weakness isn't accepting insufficiency with defeat. Let me say that again. Weakness isn't accepting insufficiency with defeat, but surrendering to God's sufficiency in victory. Weakness isn't accepting insufficiency with defeat, but it's surrendering to God's sufficiency in victory. And this is something that I come back to almost on a daily basis, just in my role as a mom. I was just telling a friend, I feel so finite. I feel so limited. I feel so unable, incapable. There's not enough of me. I have 3 children and there's one me, and I can't be all things to them. And I am constantly faced with the fact that I am limited, that I am not enough. That's so countercultural to say I'm not enough, but I am not enough. One, only the Lord can fully meet their needs. And two, it always gets to be an invitation when I realize I can't do it all. I can't be all things to all 3 of my kids at one time. That's okay, because that further develops and grows my dependency on the Lord and in His sufficiency. My inefficiency just reminds me to lean on His sufficiency. Okay, last thing, in her section on beloved, she's talking about for those of us who feel like life is mundane or just so ordinary. And she writes, we thrive when we believe we get to, but we survive when we believe we have to. And again, I've just been thinking about this a lot in the mundane, ordinary things that we do as moms, as wives, as neighbors, just normal stuff of life. Instead of saying, I have to do this, that's survival. I thrive when I shift my perspective and I get to do this. God has placed this load of laundry before me today. And no, it's not the actual laundry. It's what the laundry represents. It's children, it's a husband, it's His provision for us. We have clothes on our body because He has provided for us in that way. I get to make dinner. I get to fill in the blank. That is the difference between surviving and thriving, moving from I have to do this to I get to do this. So anyway, I hope that this conversation with Ruth blessed you like it did me. I mean, you heard I basically went into a therapy session with her. So sorry, not sorry. As always, I love to hear from you guys. If you listen on Spotify, you can comment on the episode and I'll see that and I try to respond to those. You can slide into my DMs. I would love to hear what really resonated for you as you listen to this episode. As always, I do not take it lightly that you are here and that you listen to no matter what. And I just so appreciate you guys, and I will see you next week.